Hello guys, today I wanted to give you a little bit of a different video. I just wanted to share some thoughts on a topic that I've been thinking about quite a bit recently, especially with my forays into Artifact's competitive scene, I suppose you could say, and a lot of general talk of who the best, card game player is uh, in Gwent, in Artifact. It has got me thinking in the past, and it has got me thinking now, and I just wanted to share some thoughts. As you can probably tell, that there is no best card game player. Now, yeah, I just wanted to make this argument. So I don't think card games are anything like other games in terms of the competitive scene. There's a lot of RNG, randomness, variance, whatever you want to call it, at the very top level even of most card games, if not all card games. In fact, that's kind of a part of card games, right? Is that they have this built-in sort of randomness, which can, of course, affect the results of these high-level games. So, how would you even define who the best player is in a card game? Well, there's quite a few ways you would do it in other games, right? Maybe you would say that somebody has won so many tournaments, they've won time and time again against the other best players in the game, the people who've proven themselves to be very mechanically skilled, and that proves that they're the best player. Take Cyril, for example, from StarCraft. He just seems to win every event he goes to, and display extreme, amounts of mechanical skill at the same time. In card games, you can't really, look to results as a way to see who the best player is. That might be the kind of obvious thing to do, but you could have a player winning a fair amount of tournaments, maybe a couple, maybe a lot, depending on how lucky they are. And maybe they aren't actually that skilled at the game. Maybe they don't have a really good understanding. Maybe they're just carried by their friend helping them in tournament preparation, or them getting very lucky on the day and drawing all the cards they needed, or getting the matchups that they wanted, etc. The fact that there are so many random factors and external factors to player skill and agency in these sort of high level tournaments and games just means that, yeah, if you're doing very well in these tournaments, like I have in Gwent, for example, it isn't necessarily an indicator of that person actually being the best in terms of their skill, right? So, what else can you look for in card games? Well, you can't really look for results like you would in other games, maybe. Popularity, is that a way to see who the best is? Well, not really, right? Because, of course, Life Coach might be very, very popular, but at the end of the day, he might not have put as much time in, as much practice as another player of whatever game he's playing, and he might therefore not be good. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right? But popularity does not equal skill. It does not equal, just being the best in the game. So obviously that's not a way to find it. What about win rate? Win rate might be a way that you could do it in card games, right? You just look at whoever has the best win rate across a lot of games. That's what a ladder tries to do, is, or in theory it should try to do, is find the player with the best win rate who's winning as many games as possible, winning more games than the other players that they're, competing with on a day-to-day basis. Well, this might be a way to do it, but at the same time, you then have to factor in that a person who has a very high win rate on ladder, for example, might, choke on tournament day. They might not be able to carry out a lot of wins, have a lot of success, profit from the game they're playing. They might be very skilled on the ladder in games they're playing at home, but not on a big stage. There might be other factors that are influencing whether they win or not. And yeah, of course, there's also the situation where some players may not be able to commit the time and effort required to grind a ladder. For example, in Gwent with the pro ladder, you've got to put in a lot of time, you've got to put in a lot of effort. Maybe the ladder system doesn't properly account for the skill required to play multiple decks like it does in Gwent. Maybe it's a system like in Magic where it's only one deck required to play, or maybe it is like in Gwent, where one-trick ponies are not rewarded. Either way, you can see, right, that a ladder doesn't necessarily, and the win rate that comes from that ladder does not necessarily show that person to be the best player. Also, you could even have, in theory, a higher win rate while technically playing worse than another player. For example, if they don't play decks that are quite as strong as yours, or perhaps you just get very, very lucky, a very, very lucky streak, and you end up having very high ladder scores or high win rates or whatever, right? So Effectively, yeah. With the ladder, with win rate, across a large sample size, you can't even necessarily say that that person is the best at the game, right? Whether it be Gwent, Artifact, Magic, Hearthstone, whatever it might be. Um, that isn't necessarily an indication of them being the most skilled player. It might be a way to bunch them in with other or who you think are the good players, but it's not the way to find the best player. So then we can ask, well, okay, what if they're good at ladder and tournaments? What if they have both a high win rate and, perform well at tournaments? Well, this brings the problem of basically having to choose arbitrarily one thing over the other. Either you favor tournament, results, or you favor ladder win rate, ladder grind, ability, whatever. Right? So take, for example, Tailbot or Colamon and myself. Okay? Now, you might say, well, I believe that Tailbot is the best player, and this is because he is consistently able to climb on the ladder, have a very high win rate, and he has had some quite good tournament placements as well. So across the board, he is very consistently good, and that makes him the best player. At that point, you are arguing kind of from an arbitrary line, right? You don't necessarily have any reason underlying the fact that grinding ladder is showing that he's the best player. Not necessarily true, right? Likewise, if you said about myself, well, I'm the best player because I've won lots of tournaments. I've won more tournaments than anyone else. Well, of course, we then have the problem of tournaments not necessarily meaning that you've played better than other players. Maybe I've been carried by tournament preparation from other people or even myself. Maybe I have lucked out on the day many times and got through that way. So if you see what I'm saying, if you even combine results and tournament results into one, there tends to be no way that you can find an objectively best player. You're either picking between one or another on what you think is more valuable. Tournament results, ladder for sure. So in theory, if a player, had consistent, the best ladder results every time, better than every other player, and they won every single tournament, then you could say they're the best player, right? But in card games, this just doesn't happen because of the amount of variance there is, the amount, you can have a player that is more skilled than another who makes less misplays technically, but who still does not, have that untouchable win rate effectively in both ladder and tournaments. So this is a bit of a weird thing. I mean, if you're looking at something like StarCraft, League of Legends, maybe even, you can have these incredibly skilled individuals who can have win rates that outperform their peers massively. They're able to get up to these massively high ranks, kind of effortlessly, right? They're able to win tournament after tournament after tournament. And in card games, because of the variance, because of all the external factors that there are, it's just not possible to make this judgment. So effectively, what I'm saying is, yeah, there doesn't seem to be a way to define who the best player is. What about if we took all the perceived best players and made them all play each other, like a lot of times, maybe 99 times. Each player plays against each other. Colimo versus Tailbot, right? Hyped versus Swim or whatever in these games. Yeah, you could do that, but then the problem is, well, variance could still play a role in who wins that best of 99, right? Variance could still be a thing. Maybe they have a bad day or a good day, whatever. Maybe one has put more time in than another, and eventually they'll be on the same level. Whatever. That's not something I want to talk about anyway, but you get the point, right? The variance, the RNG, the randomness is always going to affect whether it's on a small level in an individual game deciding that game, or on a macro level deciding or swinging the result in favor of a player over another. It's kind of a thing that you have to deal with in high level card gaming. So this brings me on to just talk about the sort of premise of this video, which is that there is no best card game player. No one is actually the best. There's no way to prove it in any card game. There's no way of making that an objective statement like there would be in other games, like in StarCraft, right, with Cyril. That's a pretty obvious example right now. And of course, in other games, it's of course, the person who is the best, that is limited to that time period and the run, the spree that they have in the game or whatever. But yeah, in card games, I think just overall, it cannot ever be said that a player is the best. Yes, they may be good at this or that, but not anything else. Yeah, so if you can't define what the best player is in card gaming, surely there can't be one, right? That's kind of the idea. And this just makes me want to talk about some stuff in terms of, I guess, people talking about, Artifact Gwent, especially Artifact recently. I've seen a lot of people saying, oh, well, this person's the best player, this person's this and that, they're so good, these are the top players. And in Artifact, there isn't even a ladder system that really is representative of, player skill or anything, or win ratios or whatever. There's no way to measure that. So it's even more apparent that there can't be a best player in that game, at least. Yeah, I mean, there should never be a best player because it's a card game, right? And there is variance. So yeah, it just frustrates me a little bit when people do not specify what they mean by best player. Perhaps they mean they are the best at tournaments, they have won the most tournaments out of anybody else, or they are the best at grinding the ladder, they're the best at having a high win rate, whatever it might be. But that's never really specified, and it kind of frustrates me a little bit. Whatever, I don't really care, guys, but this is the point of the video, right? Is to make this a point. And yeah, I mean, in the past, even you've had people saying, Talebot is the best player in Gwent. His ladder results really show that. His win rate really shows that. This isn't like a diss on Talebot or anything. I think he is a great player in Gwent, for example. But yeah, the point is, people say someone is the best when there's no real way to actually objectify that. Make that an objective thing. So yeah, just wanted to kind of share that thought. It's kind of a weird one. I think card gaming, I guess any game with a large amount of variance is going to have this problem where you can't actually crown someone the best player. You can, but it's going to be a little bit, false for you to do that, a little bit disingenuous, whether you realize it or not. So yeah, let me know if you agree. I mean, I think it's hard not to agree with that sort of sentiment when you really think out the logic. But despite all that, despite this argument, feel free to call me the best Gwent player, the best Artifact player. I will happily take that mantle, even if it's technically not provable. It will, of course, help my ego. Anyway, guys, let me know what you thought of this style of video. I might do more of them if I have more thoughts coming out of my brain and into video format for you. If you didn't like it, feel free to let me know that as well. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe if you want more daily videos. I'm still very excited for all the Gwent stuff on the horizon. And yes, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.